What's up? We are back at Viking Social Club for another episode. We are about to play a bounty tournament, maybe some cash, run up a stack. See you guys in a minute. All right, no filming at the table yet. I haven't done any. We're on first break. Starting stack 30,000. We have 35,500. We did bust one player. He had a short stack. We had queen jack, hearts, flop top pair. He went all in. Another guy called and I rejammed just to ISO, and we end up picking up a bounty. So we're plus $25, but nothing really serious yet. Well, if I get into any hands or if I run pretty deep, I will definitely bust the camera out and we'll get into some action. But right now, we're doing all right. We're on the final break. 72 people entered. It was an $80 buy-in, $25 bounty tournament. We have 5 bounties and a stack of 280K heading into 5,000, 10,000 blinds. There are 11 people left, and if we make the final table, I will start filming some hands and get that action for y'all. Correction, we have a stack of 305K. Get to the final table with 307,000. We redraw for seats, and I end up in the big blind. We look down at the best hand in No Limit Texas Hold'em preflop, pocket aces. There is a raise under the gun to 40,000. The blinds are 5 and 10,000, 10,000 big blind ante. There is a player in late position. I think he's either on the button or a cutoff, and he decides to go all in and jam for 53K. It's on me now, and I decide to just ship my entire stack here, because if I flat, the last player, his all-in isn't enough to allow the under the gun to re-raise. So, and we're so short that I don't think the under the gun player is ever folding. So I go ahead and jam my stack, and the under the gun calls. The under the gun player has pocket queens, and the other player has pocket eights. And we have a chance at 2 bounties with both players at risk. So we roll our hands over, and we are on our way to a flop. We need some run good here. The flop comes down 10, 9, 6, 2 spades. The turn is another 10. Now, for those of you who are watching, I need you to hit that like and subscribe button so I can at least turn a profit and cruise to the money. Thank you. We did it. We busted 2 players for $50 and are now 7-handed and on the money bubble. After congratulations from the table, I take a minute to let them know what kind of player I am.
Hey, nice hand.
Thank you. That's what I always have. The only hand I play. You know me, regular old nit. We get 6-8 in the next hand in the small blind, and clearly we're going to fold that. Now on the button, we pick up King 8 of hearts and the shortest stack at the table with 66,000, aka 6.6 big blinds. Also the loosest player at the table decides to shove. It's on us, and judging by the disinterest in the small blind and big blind, we are probably good to call and get it heads up, which we do. And unfortunately, he shows us ace king, and we are off to a run out that comes ace jack 10. That is not good for us. With a king on the turn and a brick 3 on the river, we lose this pot and we are on to the next hand. We then look down at pocket 5s, but the older gentleman sitting right across from us in front of us elects to go ahead and raise 100,000, which is about 10x. And he's really tight, and I figure he has aces or kings, so we make an easy lay down, and he shows at the end pocket kings because no one calls, because everyone knew that's what he had. We then fold to trash hands before looking down at king queen of diamonds. The blinds are now 10K, 15K with a 15K big blind ante. It's on us, and we open up to 35,000. We get 1 caller, and we end up heads up to a flop that comes down king 4-4. I decide to get a little trappy and check it over to my opponent. He does not fall for the bait and checks back. The turn is the 5 of I don't know, and we bet 35,000 and he folds. Now we pick up queen 5, quick fold, then we get ace jack in the small blind and it folds to us. clear raise. I make it 40,000 and the big blind folds. I picked up the blinds. Then I get a7 on the button and fold because of a raise. If you are wondering why I folded a7 on the button to a raise, I will explain here in a minute. Queen, jack of diamonds, under the gun +1, and I raise to 30,000. Only the big blind calls and checks in the dark, which is interesting. The flop comes jack, jack 5, bingo, and I quickly check back for deception. The turn is a 6 of hearts, and my check back on the flop works because the big blind leads for 35K now. Mostly would be calling here, but this player doesn't like to fold once he bets. We're not very deep, and I could easily flat here in position, but I do want to build a pot and elect to raise to 100,000. Sadly, this is the wrong move as he ends up folding. Some clear folds, then we get king 5 off, that's a fold. Queen deuce is a fold. Queen 6 of clubs on the button. Now this is an interesting hand. The big blind ante changed to half of the big blind when we reach 5-handed. We're on the button with queen 6 suited, and we raise it up to 40,000, and the big blind calls. The flop comes down 8-6-3, and he checks to us. So we go ahead and c-bet for 25,000, and he calls. At this point, I put him on a pair, maybe a 6 or a 3, pocket 4s or 5s maybe, 7s possibly, but I think he would have went all in pre with 7s, and I think this player would have led into us if he had an 8. Now the turn comes another 8, and he now decides to lead into us for a min bet of 20,000, which is interesting. Like I said before, it's possible, but I genuinely think we have the best hand here most of the time. In this situation, it feels more like he's repping an 8 than he actually has one, because of his turn bet would probably be a little bit bigger if he had the 8. I call the turn of 20K, and the river is a 3. And now he shoves all in. I think about this spot for a while, but conclude it's highly likely he has a 3 or pocket 7s, and occasionally, rarely, I am wrong, and it could be an 8. This opponent doesn't have many bluffs in this spot, I don't think, so I fold, and he does show us 3-4 offsuit. I feel good about the way I played the hand, as I was correct on every street, I think, with my action, except I could have possibly raised turn if I thought I was best. But anyways, on to the next hand. We get deuce 3 in the big blind. There's a limp. We check, fold, flop. Now we just fold a bunch of hands. Nothing really playable. You could argue raising some of these hands if you were the first to open in position, but in this tournament I feel like I really have an edge on my opponents, and we're not very deep. I mean, somewhere probably in the neighborhood of everyone's stack. Maybe the biggest stack's 20 big blinds or less. So I feel like conserving my chips here is a much better play, because eventually either players typically get bored or frustrated at the final table and jam something they shouldn't, and that's when we can take advantage of that, or we can take advantage of opening and our opponents missing the flop and c-betting the right flops and taking pots down that way. Another player does get knocked out, and we are now 4-handed, and that's a slight pay jump, and I'm pretty sure we are the short stack. If we are not, we are 3 of 4, and which kind of gives us a license to gamble now versus, you know, ICM and all that and pay jumps. But at the same time, I want to pick my spots properly because I still think I can win. So we're in the small blind here, and it folds to me. This is a clear shove, plus the big blind player has just been super tight. He folds, and I pick this one up. We are 3-handed now. I shove king 7 in the small blind after the button folds, and the big blind folds. We pick that one up. Queen 10 offsuit on the button is the next hand. I jam again and pick the blinds up. The blinds are now 20K, 40K. We have 400K after posting the big blind, and the small blind limps now. I have ace 5, and I'm okay with it, so I go all in. He folds. I then fold 10-3 in the small blind, and at this point I think maybe the big stack has a little over 650K-ish, and we pick up kings on the button. Since we've been jamming so often, I might as well stay with my line as if I just min-raise. It kind of looks a little suspicious, and hopefully someone gets sick of us jamming and calls in the spot, but that doesn't happen, and I pick this one up also. Now we get pocket 5s in the big blind again, and again, the small blind limps. Of course, we're going to jam here with fives. He folds, and we pick that one up. Now we have a stack of 665K and are almost dead even with both players. We get dealt pocket nines on the button, and of course, we jam. Or wait, I think we're in the small blind. And of course, we jam, and the big blind this time, Snap calls us. He shows ace king. It's a classic race. He has us covered, but barely, so we are at risk. The flop is clean, but gives him more outs. The turn is great, and the river, boom, let's go. We win. That player has one big blind left, so he gets it all in next hand. The other player knocks him out, and when heads up, we decide to chop it. It was late, and with the payout structure, the chop was well worth it.
So we got home. We gotta be quiet. The baby's sleeping. We end up in the tournament for $80. We chopped it heads up. It was better because the way the structure payout was. And we got 710 for that. We knocked out 7 players, plus we got to keep our own bounty. So we got 200 for that. So we're in for $80, out for 910. Let's go. We needed that.